Welcome to another edition of Our City. A few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week. On Thursday, June 15th, around noon, I'm going to participate in a fashion show titled Runway Freedom. It's presented by the Office on Aging in our city, and this is a multicultural event. It will feature fashion from various regions around the world. It's going to showcase the latest designs of Mwamba Camera, creations by Camera. Modeling this global attire will be senior citizens from the Office on Aging, elected officials, a few surprise models. It will be held at the Sampson Center, located at 800 Anna Street. And for more information, please call 908-820-4707. Later that evening, I'm going to be at the Greater Union County's annual celebration dinner. The United Way event will be held at the Westwood, located at 438 North Avenue in Garwood. And on Friday, June 16th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, will be the Leaguers Fun Day. This event is located at East Broad Street and Chestnut Street, and the Leaguers is what is referred to as our Head Start program here in the city of Elizabeth. Later that afternoon, I'm going to join Councilman Carlos Torres around 4:30 in the afternoon, and members of the Puerto Rican community, along with other Elizabeth residents, as we raise the Puerto Rican flag in front of City Hall at 50 Winfield Scott Plaza. Immediately following the flag raising, members of the Puerto Rican Alliance of Elizabeth will be hosting an award presentation and festivities to be held at the Dolce restaurant located at 17 Broad Street. This event has a donation of $5. For more information, please contact 908-316-8276. Later that evening, a Juneteenth celebration will be held at the Renaissance Newark Airport Hotel, located at 1000 Spring Street. If you need more information concerning these events or any other events, please call our Public Information Office at 908-820-4124. Please stay with us after these messages, where we're going to talk with members of the Elizabeth Historical Society.
Offering everything you could want from college, including a life. Kane University.
Welcome back to our city. First, on Wednesday, May 24th, the Historical Society of Elizabeth, New Jersey, partnered with my office, the Elizabeth Public Library, the local history department, the Elizabeth Board of Education, the Union County Office of Cultural and Heritage Affairs, and the Elizabeth Rotary Club to conduct an interactive forum with Elizabeth students on what Elizabeth looked like 100 years ago in 1917. And tonight's show, we're going to explore some of that conversation and more. And I'm pleased to be joined by Miss Ceil Mantia, who is the Vice President of the Historical Society. Ceil, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mayor Dunn.
Miss Diana Vivanco, Trustee of the Historical Society. Diana, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
And Sebastian Prado, also a Trustee. Sebastian, welcome back.
Thank you for having us, Mayor.
The two of you work hard on Future City, Historical Society, and we're going to get to you in a minute, but I want to start with Ceil first. Ceil, welcome to the show. You've never been on this show.
No, this is the first time.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a native Elizabethan, born and raised here, went through all the public schools. I graduated from Douglas College. I went on to Fordham to get my master's degree in social work. I worked for DIFUS. I've worked for a number of agencies. In my last 35 years of employment, I worked for the Board of Education as a social worker.
And it's a great career you had there.
Yes, and now I'm a member of I've been a member of the Historical Society for 10 years, and I'm now Vice President, and I am Secretary of the Rotary Club.
I was going to say, you're in the Rotary Club, you're in the Historical Society. There's not a social event I don't go to. I see you at some meetings here.
Right.
And we thank you for your service to Elizabeth in a very voluntary way.
You're welcome.
So Ceil, tell us about, why did you want to do a forum? What was the main purpose behind that forum?
Well, we do a forum every year, Mayor, one or two, and our purpose is to inform the community about history and how important history is to our lives because history is very relevant. Even though it happened 100 years ago, the issues 100 years ago, especially World War I, are very similar to the issues that we face today. For one, immigration, how people were concerned about immigration, how they're suspicious about immigrants, and that has been forever. So we felt that it was important for young people to understand what World War I was about, because many of the young people do not know about the World War I or even World War II. That, I'm afraid, is not being taught very much in schools. And we felt it was important for them to know it, it's important for them to study about it, to think about it, and how it affects their lives and how it might affect their lives in the future.
Yeah, I read somewhere there was something like 50 million people served in World War II, and there's about 500,000 people that are still alive.
Yes.
And they're dying at 327 a day.
They're dying very fast,
Yeah, so
very fast.
because of
My uncle was in World War II, and my father was in World War I. So I heard some stories from both of them about both wars, and having studied it too.
Good. Diana, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, what preparation, how were you involved in this, and what kind of research did you do?
Well, in the Historical Society, for this part of the forum, we collaborate with the City of Elizabeth, with your office, with the Union County Office of Cultural Affairs, with the Rotary Club, with the Board of Education, and the preparation steps were to come together and work together to develop this forum and trying to give the students something. We didn't have so much time to explain the whole 100 years of history, but trying to come out with something substantial for them and to get some relevant points for today.
Does history fascinate you?
Yes.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it fascinates me as well. So,
Yep.
Sebastian, tell me, you've been here before, so tell us a little about your role and also what's going on with you.
Okay. My role in the Elizabeth Forum was with social media. So for the Elizabeth Forum, we had a live stream that is now available in YouTube. You can search it up at Historical Society of Elizabeth, New Jersey. And we also share some pictures of the event in Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at the Historical Elizabeth, New Jersey. So the importance of having those pictures is so that everyone that couldn't attend the event had access to the information.
You did a good job. There's a lot of people that saw it. So, did you enjoy the social media aspect of the history?
Yes, because I noticed that some people are more have more access to information through the internet, and sharing that information that maybe they cannot find in other sources. It was important for us to share information that we have.
So since you two are a lot younger than Ceil and I, what do you think they would do if they had social media in World War I in 1917?
Wow.
Want to take a stab at that question? I can imagine, right? Times would be different, huh?
Yeah, yes. I think information could be moved faster, and maybe some problems couldn't be solved easier.
Yeah, that would be something. Ceil, researching history, you kind of touched on it. It's important to Elizabeth. It's important to the society as a whole.
It sure is.
Tell me what fascinates you about history.
Well, I enjoy learning about it and how it affects us today and how you can connect it to today, even though it was something that happened years ago. And I've always been interested in history, and especially in the history of Elizabeth and how it fared and what effect it had on the revolution, all of that. And I think a lot of people are not aware of the historical significance of Elizabeth, and we've had so much history here, and I've always felt badly when I've seen some of the buildings torn down that used to be here and used to be have such historical, advantage. Yeah.
So, we have two young people who are immigrants here, and what's interesting is immigration was a big debate in 1917 as well.
Exactly.
And there were people who were afraid of immigrants in 1917.
Exactly. Very same.
Back then, they rounded them up.
That's right.
They put them in camps.
That's right.
We haven't done that here yet, but you never know with Trump.
No. And look what happened to the Japanese in World War II. Internment for months and months and years.
So, as two people who are new to the country, what do you think of, from your perspective, the immigration issue now? It's very similar to what it was in 1917. It just didn't have social media to exploit it the way it's being exploited.
Yes, actually, I've been living here in Elizabeth 10 years, and learning about the history of Elizabeth is like, it's kind of identity because we are living in Elizabeth, but there is a reason behind everything around the city. It's a reason, and the monuments there, and on the parks. There's a reason on the buildings. There is a reason behind everything, and find the history and the reasons and the whys is kind of find a place also in that history today. So it's relevant for us as a city, as immigrants, and also is kind of interesting to learn that Elizabeth has been an immigration of center of a city of immigrants. 100 years ago were the Germans, now are the Latinos, and 100 years ago we have Germans, Italians, Jews in the city. The city always have been a multicultural city.
Well, I've always said, Diana, that the immigration has been and our diversity, but has also been our strength.
Yep.
It's what's built the city of Elizabeth. So, Sebastian, from your perspective, the history, immigration, same issues in 1917 as in 2017. What are your thoughts?
One thing that I would like to comment is that having this type of event, like to learn what our city means to us, helps people that move to the city that weren't born in this country. Because, like, for example, I moved to this country and I see that, we have some monuments and some buildings, but like I didn't know the meaning. But now that I attended some forums and I'm part of the historical society, I understand why they are there, and now I try to take care of them. So, like, people that maybe in 10 or 100 years from now can also get to, like, learn that history that.
So Ceil, is there anything specific you wanted the audience to know about our city and region in 1917? Does anything stand out to you? And Ken Ward did that.
Well, it was that there were a lot of different immigrants here in the communities, and they had their own little communities at that time. But once they became acclimated, once they became more comfortable being here, those communities then became wider, and so people integrated and people got together and people were willing to work together. And hopefully I hope that we can do that today too. And I think that's one of the things that at Rotary's 100th celebration, when we were researching that for Rotary, that was what I learned, that the group of men that started the Elizabeth Rotary started it because they wanted to have a sense of community, a sense of working together, not only being friends and recreating together, but for their businesses, also in order to help other people. And they did help in World War I with the Smileage program, where they gave coupons to servicemen. It was like the USO, the precursor of the USO, and the servicemen could go to different movies, different fun things to do. And I think that that's what I like about history.
So, Ceil, one final question with the two young people on the show. Why is it important for young people or students, as a former educator, to learn about history?
I think it's important because it gives you a vaster knowledge of what people suffered before, what people were like before, and what are some of the same issues that we have today, and now we haven't learned what we haven't learned from the past and what we should learn from the past.
Ceil, Diana, Sebastian, I want to thank you for joining us on this segment. We're going to follow up with more members of the Elizabeth Historical Society on the second segment. And thanks for taking the time to come here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Please stay with us after these messages. We'll be back more about the Elizabeth Historical Society here in the city of Elizabeth.
We're an American original, dependable, historic, nuanced, with all the comforts of home, even when you're just visiting. So we're celebrating for all that we've left untouched and all that we've changed. A place where the past meets the future. So consider this your invitation.
We've been celebrating here in Elizabeth for 350 years, and we're just getting started. Welcome back to our city, and for the second half of this evening's show, I'm pleased to be joined by Mr. Ken Ward, who is the president of the Historical Society. Ken, welcome back. And Mr. Bill Mealia, who's a board member of the Rotary Club. Bill?
Mayor?
Good to see you again.
Pleasure.
And Stan Neron, president of the Elizabeth Board of Education. Stan, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, Bill, why don't we start with you? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mayor.
So, tell our viewers about yourself, your history with the Rotary.
Well,
You've been here before, so.
I've been in Rotary since 1973, or September 1st.
So you weren't one of those founding members that Ken looked up?
No, that people think that, but not quite, Mayor. And I have seen the Rotary Club transition a lot, but one of the things that has transitioned is good. We are much more active in the community, and you obviously know that. But we're very proud of things that we have recently done. We give scholarships each year. We just gave 15 students from the high school a total of $30,000 in cash, a grant, which brought a total of $535, I think, and something like almost $510,000 that we have given out since we started. We give dictionaries to all the public schools in Elizabeth, Hillside, and 3 parochial schools in Elizabeth. We have made a substantial donation to Trinitas in their new emergency room. And we way back when I started, it was more a donation club. Now there's a lot more activity and interest to do that, and it gives you a sense of satisfaction about it. And it's all for the people within, essentially within Elizabeth.
Right.
It's all Union County, but essentially in
Mostly
Elizabeth, yeah.
Thanks, Bill. Ken, you've been on this show before?
No.
This is your first time.
This
Welcome.
is it.
I know you had a long career with the gas company, and since then you've been doing a lot of work with the Historical Society. So tell us a little about yourself and what's your passion for history?
Well, I arrived in Elizabeth about 1970, working for the Elizabethtown Gas Company from the Pennsylvania Railroad. And I obviously fell in love with Elizabeth, involved with historical history of the city, really from 1970 on. And watching it over that period of time, the city has done quite well, very well. And obviously I enjoy history, and I've been involved with the Historical Society now for 17 years. And I was involved with the houses, Belcher, Ogden, and Bunnell, right from the early 70s. So
From the very beginning.
I'm sort of part of the woodwork.
Framework. Stan, president of the Board of Education. How you doing over there?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. A lot of work. We have a bright future ahead of us, so we're excited.
So we had this forum. You were part of the forum. What was your perspective on the forum?
Well, my perspective of the forum is it was very engaging, having some great historians as panelists, and then engaging the students. It's very important that the students get a chance to see the perspective of yesterday.
Well, there were a couple hundred students here, so tell us about that, Stan.
Well, they were very engaging. I think they learned a great deal, and at the end, we were able to bring everything full circle by really discussing civic engagement and the role that, celebrating 100 years of the Rotary Club and what that has to do with them today and how that relates. Because, when we talk about history, we have to make it something that the students can relate to. And I think talking about everyday issues to what they want to see change, immigration, talking about the effects of the war and the impact that had on our society, they were able to relate to what's going on today in modern day. So
and Ken, we were talking before the show about some of the research that you came across in preparing for the forum.
Yes.
That you didn't talk about, but maybe we could talk a little bit about it on the show today, and how the country evolved in 2 short years based on yearbooks.
When you start doing a historical project, you don't know what you're going to bump into. And I bumped into 3 pieces of paper, which are actually the commencement exercises at Baton High School from 1914, 1916, and 1918. And the first one is printed about 2 2 months before the war begins in Europe. And one of the speeches given, which was an essay on the public school and the little alien, obviously that is a reference to immigration. And so that immigration was part of the development of Elizabeth. This was a very rich period for Elizabeth. They were prospering, Elizabeth was growing, but obviously the alien issue was one that was worthy of mentioning during a school commencement meeting. So the next one is from 1916, and they reported on the debating club, and one of the questions asked was, resolved that the Army and Navy of the United States should be substantially increased. The students said no. And so this is a typical American attitude. The war was going on in Europe, and we didn't want to be part of it. But that is not how things went, which we learned in the arrangement about the submarine warfare and the conditions in Europe. The last piece is the commencement exercises of 1918. And in this one, it's clear that we had joined the war, and the commencement begins with a flag salute, and then the salutatory speech was Batten's work in the war. So you can figure out very quickly that we mobilized our interest in world affairs very quickly. The remarks were given by a Major Bloom of the United States Army, and many of the readings were patriotic type poems. But here you have 3 documents before the war, just before we got in, and when we were in. And you could see how the attitude of the students changed from being uninterested to being little interested. And then they really didn't want to be part of the war, and then you're all in the war. So this is the sort of thing when you're doing research that
Fascinating.
you bump into.
So, Bill, you were at the forum, and
Yes.
what was your perspective on the forum, especially?
I particularly like the kids in their questions. There was some very stimulating questions. They put Stan on the spot on a couple of them, but it was.
He's used to being on a dime, though.
It was.
He can
It was
dance on a
good.
dime,
Yeah,
Stan.
it was good. The kids. They were really enthusiastic. They were interested, and they understood the points that we were trying to make on there, and I really thought it was very well done and very well. The participation was, and that's what I enjoyed.
The participation. of the kids.
Participation.
So, what do you think they came away from this? Do you think there was a learning episode, or they were just thrilled to be out of school?
Oh no, I think they definitely learned a
Yes,
great
yes.
deal. The engagement and just really getting them to understand how they can be involved. You know, I think oftentimes students hear about history and they hear of different civic organizations and don't really understand where's the connection. How do I get involved? How do I get engaged? And that's where then I get put on the spot, and a lot of questions were posed to me, which is fine because that's civic engagement. That's government. That's accountability. And the students were asking a lot of stimulating questions as it relates to them today, which kind of correlated to show the impact that a group like the Rotary Club has had on our society, just being involved and wanting to address different causes and create change in our everyday life.
And Ken, your perspective from the students, you've worked with the Historical Society for 17 years, and a lot of your preparation, but seeing the students interact gives you hope that somebody's going to take this over at
We
some
certainly
point?
hope so. We certainly hope so.
So we're now in 2017, and the preparation, the research from 1917 relates to today in 2017 in our city and region. And one of the issues was immigration that the first group of panelists spoke about. And Stan, you're first generation here, right?
Yes.
So tell us what you think of the immigration debate here based on some of the research that was done for 1917.
Well, it's different. It's a different type of immigration, 100 years ago versus what's happening now. I think now you have a larger influx of people coming from throughout the world, whereas you had a lot of, at the time, a lot of European countries immigrating here and coming here for different reasons. Now in the in modern day, you have a lot of people coming to this country for opportunity to be able to get away because of political reasons and, for the dream, the American dream. And at the time, I think the American dream was being developed. So the immigrants of those days were able to develop the American dream, whereas the immigrants of today want to be part of the American dream that's already been set forth for them.
That's a good point. Bill, what are your thoughts on that question, on the immigration debate, or any other debate that you think is similar to 1917 and 2017?
I think now, as Stan said, the immigrants are coming from a different background, different area. And having been in Elizabeth, one of the things that I've noticed that a lot of the immigrants still stay within their comfort zone, and I think schooling and will help that. But back then, I mean, we can transition. We had Polish Falcons, and we had the Italian Brotherhood, and the Germans, and all this. But today, while people say, well, they could be from the Caribbean or the Central or South America, they still say, I'm a Venezuelan or I'm a Colombian, and they stay in these pockets. And I think they could take a lesson from the Cubans who came in before them, where the Cubans now intermarriage and have broken down to a point. And I think these folks have to do that also for us to become American. I mean,
that's an evolving process.
Yeah, it really is. I had a teacher in high school who said the only way that all this is going to have is everybody intermarries and we're all one color. And that's not going to happen. But when I think of it, I think this guy was telling me this in 1955.
Well, I think the unique thing about that is that everybody keeps their essence.
Yeah.
So you have Italian American, you have Polish American, and now today you have Haitian American, Cuban American, and Venezuelan American. So I think that the dash is what makes us all unique, and the fact that we can still say, hey, we have a heritage, we have a culture that we've now brought into the American culture, because that's what America is now. America is this melting pot where the dash is what makes us all unique.
And Kenneth, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, one of the things, the Rotarians, the men, the 25 men that started Rotary Club, they were all men at the time, and they were business or professional people. Virtually everyone lived in Elizabeth, and virtually everyone lived probably within 4 or 5 blocks of Broad Street and Jersey Street. And so they were really confined to Elizabeth. And out of this Rotary group, which had no religious, nationalistic, or any affiliation, they were just professional people in the city. You got mayors and things like that. And that was one of the things that Rotary, one of the great things that came out of Rotary was this ability to be leaders in the community and without any nationalistic attachments.
And Kenneth, probably fits exactly your effort to identify those 25 people and their work.
Yes.
They came from different backgrounds, but
What was really interesting is in Europe, Germans were fighting English and French, and everyone was on a different side. The number of families where the belligerent people were from the two sides, wife would be from France, husband from Germany, or Germany and England, and so forth. And it must have been very difficult in households where your brothers and cousins are fighting on opposite sides, and you have as many as 10 million men fighting each other, and many of them are related through the same family, and the families are living in Elizabeth. A very difficult situation for many families.
I want to thank the three of you for joining me on the show and talking about the forum as well as the history of our city and comparing it to the 100 years ago and the way we did in that forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
I want to thank Stan Neron, Ken Ward. I want to thank Bill Mealia. I want to thank Ceil Mantia and Diana Vivanco and Sebastian Prado, who were on the first segment of the show, talking about the Historical Society and the City of Elizabeth in 1917 and 2017. We'll see you next week on another edition of Our City.
Sometimes you learn by helping others learn. Kane University.